انت مش هتجبرني تاني اعمل حاجه انا مش عايزاها.
انت غلطت غلطه مبروك، ما انتش قدها. انا مش وحش للدرجه دي.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another new edition of Africa Today, where we get you the latest news taking place on the African scene. And our main topic today will be Egypt winning a seat at the UN Human Rights Council. But we'll first start with this report. A meeting on Libya in London will seek to break a political stalemate over the country's UN-backed unity government, which has struggled to extend its influence beyond the capital, Tripoli. More details in the following report.
A senior U.S. official said that a meeting on Libya in London next week will seek to break a political stalemate over the country's UN-backed unity government, which has struggled to extend its influence beyond the capital, Tripoli. Monday's ministerial meeting convened by Britain and the United States takes place as Libyan forces close in on the key city of Sirte, hoping to flush out Daesh forces that grabbed it during factional infighting more than a year ago after the fall of strongman Muammar al-Qaddafi in 2011. Expelling Daesh from Sirte would shut down the militant group's main stronghold in North Africa and its only base outside Iraq and Syria. Since Gaddafi's fall, factional fighting among brigades of former rebels who first battled the strongman and then turned against each other has increased, while militants have profited from the security vacuum. The State Department official said that London meeting would also discuss ways to move forward with economic decisions and a budget until a finance minister is appointed. Officials from the World Bank and International Monetary Fund will also participate in the meeting. Libya is highly dependent on hydrocarbon revenues and needs oil exports to resume to save its economy from collapse. The conflict has reduced oil output to a fraction of the 1.6 million barrels per day the OPEC member once produced.
Back, United Nations Chief Ban Ki-moon has asked the Security Council for help to resolve a stalemate between peacekeepers and the Democratic Republic of Congo government over what to do with hundreds of South Sudanese rebel figures. Now we go to this report and we'll be right back.
United Nations Chief Ban Ki-moon has asked the Security Council for help to resolve a stalemate between peacekeepers and Democratic Republic of Congo government over what to do with hundreds of South Sudanese rebel fighters. In a letter to the 15-member council seen by Reuters on Thursday, Ban said 755 South Sudanese rebels had crossed into Congo's Garamba National Park with opposition leader Riek Machar in August. They fled the South Sudanese capital Juba in July after fighting forces and troops loyal to his rival South Sudan's President Salva Kiir. UN peacekeepers in Congo extracted Machar, his wife, son, and 10 others from Grand Amba at the request of the Congolese government in mid-August. Since then, the United Nations has been trying to broker an agreement between Congo and South Sudan on the repatriation of the fighters on their relocation to third country until a political deal is in place in South Sudan. On October the 3rd, the Congolese government told the United Nations peacekeeping mission that it wanted the fighters to leave within a week, but the mission doesn't have the legal authority to expel the troops from Congo.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're delighted to be joined here at the studio by Mr. Mohammed Al-Ghaffar, President of the African Economic Council. Good afternoon, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon to you and to all of you.
Sir, in what Egypt's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has called a diplomatic victory, Egypt won a seat at the UN Human Rights Council. How do you see this election, and how do you see this victory to Egypt?
Yeah, it is actually a great victory because Egypt obtained 173 votes. Which means it is a majority of the members in the UN Human Rights Council. Also, it means it proves there are a highly estimation for the human rights measures the Egyptian government are taking. I believe since 1990, since the first edition of the human rights law in Egypt, and also proves that the Egyptian system really respects the human rights, and the other world or the international society really appreciating all of that measures taken by Egypt.
Right. Sir, how do you expect Egypt's role to be in fighting for African countries' human rights through its membership at the UN Human Rights Council?
Actually, the African countries used to suffer for a long time from a lot of crimes against humanity, like the colonialism crimes, the slavery crimes, and most of the African countries really adopted human rights law as a part of their constitution. Some of the African countries have a federal system, and that federal system adopting really caps related with the human rights and the International Human Rights Convention, and we have seen the suffering from some troubles in the last few days, like what happened in Ethiopia. There are troubles because cap number 25 and the cap number 39, which gives the right for any state. It is a federal system according to their constitution, which give any state believe they want to have the self-ruling system, they have the right to do that. But I believe the other countries goes very stable and achieving a progressive in the human rights measures. Like Rwanda, you can see Rwanda managed to achieve a high level of the human rights law there, and respecting the rights of the people, and also they also obtained a high level of facing the corruption, which used to be a main obstacle against the development in most of the African countries.
Mm-hmm. Right. Do you agree that Egypt joining now the Human Rights Council in conjunction with its current membership of the UN Security Council and the African Union's Peace and Security Council, how do you see this as
and also presiding the Committee of the Climate Change for the African chiefs?
Right. How does this reflect increased confidence in Egypt internationally?
Actually, it proves that Egypt regaining its situation between the world countries, and it also have a great opportunity to help the other African countries and representing them in the world associations according to the accumulation of the experience in leading the Arab world or the African continent.
Mm-hmm. And how do you think Egypt can promote security and stability in the Middle East through its role in these different UN organizations or councils?
You know, Egypt paying a lot of attention for security and stability in the African countries, and most of the time we have a meeting with the African leaders. We can see always President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi have a summit with most of the African leaders to discuss the stability, development and security in the African countries, and he always keep really a lot of attention to attend all of the African summits, either with the African Union or the other summit.
Right, sir. Now, Egypt winning 173 votes out of 193. How do you see this? What does it represent? What does it reflect to you?
It reflecting that most of the countries, the members of the United Nations, they really appreciate all the procedures have been taken by the Egyptian government to improve the situation of the human rights practicals. Also, the political rights and the human rights law, which really taking a high place in the priorities of the Egyptian government. As you can see, we have now the Supreme Council for the Human Rights, and it is presided by Minister Mohammed Faik, the one which the council which representing all the demands for the human rights between the people, between of the activists in the NGOs and societies in between Egyptian people.
Right. In October 2015, Egypt won a two-year stint as a non-permanent member at the UN Security Council, which began early this year. How do you see the performance of the Egyptian diplomacy so far under the rule of President Sisi?
You know, Egypt were supposed to be a permanent member since 1940, and at that time the Egyptian diplomacy preferred to do not participate because of the struggle between the Arab and Zionism. And which means that Egypt always liked to have the ideal way of diplomacy. At the meantime, a lot of African countries looking forward to have a representative in the Security Council, and we got really encouragement from most of the African countries to vote to Egypt to become member, and that step of non-permanent seat of the Security Council, it's paving the way for the Egyptian seat as a permanent member in the Security Council.
Right, and how do you view Egyptian-African relations under President Sisi's rule in light of all these, representations by Egypt?
One of the most important positions occupied by Egypt, that President El-Sisi is the president of the Committee of African Chiefs for Climate Change, and that going to give a lot of enhance for the African countries to find the resources for the development. When they found the first world contributing with emissions and polluting the atmosphere, was about 97% of the emissions comes out from the G20 or the 20 grand industrial countries in the world, and the African continent became the only white slide, the only clean slide in that red circle, which put a responsibility on the advanced country to pay like a substitution for the underdeveloping countries, like the African countries, to help them to take the green piece, the green technology and the development. That's why they have put a lot of resources in the carbon fund, which facing the emissions of carbon dioxide and the nitrous. That going to be like enhance of helping the African countries to get resources in investing of the green piece or the high tech, which reduce the emissions and even in the energy consumption, it consuming less energy, which keeps the African continent countries as clean as it is. Plus, the African continent, it has one of the biggest forests in the world, which representing a length for the world to keep the climate clean as it is, and encouraging growing more forests and trees for the African countries. That fund going to help those African countries to achieve alternative energy resources like the solar energy, the wind power energy, all of that going to transfer technology to cover the expenses of transferring that technology. And I believe in the last summit in Paris, one of the African countries, they really got the substitution from the carbon fund, and it was Sudan. According to the growing trees plan have been done between the Egyptian Ministry of Environment and the Sudanese Ministry of Environment, and the consultants, they got him from Egypt to Sudan. His name is Dr. Magdi Allan.
Right. What do you think are the most important or urgent issues that Egypt should start with at the UN Human Rights Council?
I think the Egyptian policy is applying the International Convention for the Human Rights. That's why we've been monitoring from all over the world as a new government, and the government came after revolution. They've been monitoring the behavior of that government and how the new constitution and the map road keeping the human rights. And after that, they really got convinced that the human rights is one of the most important priorities for the Egyptian government.
Right, Mr. Mohammed Abdel Ghaffar, President of the African Economic Council. Always a pleasure having you with us, sir.
Pleasure to me. Thank you very much.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, with this we wrap up this edition of Africa Today. Many thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more coming up here on Nile TV International.